Why is my husband hiding expensive gifts from his new celebrity friend? The laptop sat there innocently enough, screen half closed on our coffee table while my husband Michael disappeared to the bathroom. But those notification sounds kept pinging over and over like tiny digital alarm bells that something wasn't right. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But after a week of Michael brushing off questions about his New York work trip with vague shrugs and nothing interesting happened responses, my curiosity had reached a breaking point. When someone who usually shares every detail of his day suddenly becomes secretive, you notice. The messages were right there on the screen when I opened it. Sophia M. was the sender, and her words made my stomach drop. I can't believe what an amazing time we had together. Already looking forward to your next trip to the city. Hope you love the little gift I sent to your office. Gift? What gift? Michael had been home for 3 days and hadn't mentioned receiving anything from anyone, let alone from Sophia M., who I was starting to suspect wasn't just another boring marketing colleague. When Michael returned from the bathroom, I was still staring at the screen. The look on his face told me everything I needed to know before I even opened my mouth. Who's Sophia M.? I asked, trying to keep my voice level. His jaw tightened immediately. You went through my laptop? Sarah, that's a complete violation of privacy. The messages were right there. I heard the notifications. Who is she and what gift? Michael ran his hands through his hair, that nervous habit he'd had since college. It's nothing. Just someone from the project I worked on in New York. She's an actress we hired for some promotional work. An actress, of course. And she's sending you gifts because it's just a watch. A thank you for the collaboration. It's sitting in my office because I knew you'd overreact exactly like this. A watch? I felt my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. What kind of watch requires hiding it at your office? The argument that followed was unlike anything we'd had in our 8 years of marriage. Michael kept insisting I was being paranoid and jealous, that I was making something out of nothing. But every time I pressed for details about this mysterious actress or why she felt compelled to send expensive gifts to married men she'd just met, he got more defensive. 2 hours. 2 hours of circular arguing, of Michael accusing me of being controlling and me pointing out that normal work collaborations don't usually end with costly presents. Finally, when I threatened to drive to his office myself to see this innocent little watch, the truth came spilling out. Fine, it's a Rolex, okay? She sent me a Rolex Submariner, but it doesn't mean anything. She's just generous with people she works with. The room went completely silent. A Rolex. Not a nice pen or a bottle of wine or even an expensive bottle of whiskey. A Rolex Submariner, which even I knew cost more than most people's cars. Michael, I said slowly, normal people don't send Rolexes to acquaintances. What exactly happened on this trip? Nothing happened, but his voice cracked on the word nothing, and we both heard it. I spent the rest of that evening replaying every conversation we'd had since he'd returned from New York. How he'd been protective of his phone, angling it away when he texted. How he'd suddenly started talking about possibly needing to travel more for work. How he'd seemed distracted during dinner, like his mind was somewhere else entirely. That night, Michael slept in the guest room. The next morning, he barely spoke to me over coffee, and when I tried to bring up the Rolex situation again, he shut down completely. I need some space to think, he announced, throwing clothes into an overnight bag. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. This whole thing has made me realize we have serious trust issues. Trust issues. He was the one hiding expensive gifts from mystery actresses, and somehow I was the one with trust issues. You're really going to turn this around on me? I asked, watching him pack. I'm not the one getting Rolexes from women I just met, and I'm not the one going through private messages and acting like a jealous teenager. The door slammed behind him, leaving me alone in our suddenly too quiet house with nothing but questions and the sinking feeling that my marriage had just shifted into something I didn't recognize. Because here's what Michael didn't seem to understand. It wasn't just about the watch. It was about the secrecy, the lies by omission, the way he'd looked genuinely panicked when I discovered those messages, like I'd uncovered something much bigger than a simple work friendship. Normal colleagues don't send five-figure gifts. Normal work trips don't end with secret communications and hidden presents. And normal husbands don't check into hotels when their wives ask reasonable questions about inappropriate behavior. As I sat in our empty living room, staring at the laptop that had started this whole mess, one thought kept circling through my mind. If this really was as innocent as Michael claimed, why was he acting so incredibly guilty?